Let's find out.
What's up? We got you, season 1, episode 1, the pilot. So yeah, doing this new show, and even though I've not done Penn Badgley's other work, Gossip Girl, yet, I'm on the final season of that, I decided to take a break from Gossip Girl and do You, because it's one of my favorite shows. And even though it's one of my favorite shows that I finished a week ago, though I finished the 4th season a week ago, so I decided, yeah, why not do this show? Still waiting for the final season, though. Still waiting for season 5. So, while I wait for season 5, I decided to do the You series, the You reaction series, the You review series. Yeah, all 10 episodes. All 10 episodes. The same amount as Gossip Girl has. And Penn Badgley was in Gossip Girl. And now he's in the show. So, my funny humor. Yeah. So this episode starts off with a shot of New York. Yeah, we just cut to the first thing we see is a shot of New York. Okay, Sarah Gamble and all the other people who worked on this show. I see you basically giving us our first shot in New York. Yeah, we got to a bookstore with a woman walking in with our main character Joe saying, "Well, hello, you." Yeah, basically. And there you. Well, who are you? With based on your vibe, a student. And your blouse is so loose. And you're not here to be oogled, but those bracelets, they jangle. You look like a little bit of you like a little attention. Okay, I'll bite. You search for the book. Fiction F through K. You're not the standard. You're not the standard insecure hunting for Faulkner. You'll never finish Two Sun-Kiss for Stephen King, but who will buy? Who will you buy? The woman bumps into people, gasping and saying sorry. Joe says, "You sound apologetic, but it's like you're embarrassed to be a good girl, and you're moving your first word to me." Yeah. The woman goes up to Joe and says, "Paula Fox." And Joe says, "Good choice." And the woman says, "Weird." She feels weird. I feel weirdly validated. Joe says, "Follow me. She's got to be in here." The woman says, "Celebrity author. I thought Fox was pretty obscure." And Joe says, she's Courtney Love's maternal grandmother. "You're not expected to know that." And the woman says, "Good, I didn't." And Joe says, "Mr. Mooney wants everyone in here who's even triangulally famous. He thinks it would sell more books." The woman says that it's sad that people are buying books because of what's popular, and it's not because they want to be moved or changed in some way. Joe says it's an epidemic. It's an epidemic. Yeah, you see this guy here, the guy behind the glasses behind you? He grabbed a Dan Brown lace on the way in. So he's gonna wander around for like 5 to 10 minutes and just to find something legitimate to buy with it. The woman says, "Oh, look, that serial guy when they buy their own condoms only to make conspicuous like their own crap." Joe says, if Dan Brown's your kink, then be about it. At the end of the day, people are really disappointed, aren't they? Joe says, "Sometimes they surprise you." Paula Fox, top shelf. You want me to? And the woman says, no, I got it. And Joe says, oh, you're not wearing a bra. You want me to notice. If it's a movie, if this were a movie, I'd grab you and we'd go into the night. We'd go right at it in the stacks. Have you read her fiction? Desperate characters. It's her best. And the woman says, well, that's what I keep hearing. Joe says, you haven't read Desperate Characters? The woman says, I know. I'm worried it's not going to live up to the hype. And Joe says, I can safely say it's the good. It is that good. The woman says that it's high endorsement from a bookstore clerk. And Joe says, well, he's the bookstore manager, but then a customer gets their attention by saying, hey, hello, anyone working here? The woman calls him an a-hole, and Joe says, wow, who knew this woman could be this blunt? And the woman laughs. Joe goes to check out in the book, and the customer bought. The customer says he's in a hurry. In his head, which is how Joe says everything, but still, in his head, Joe says he's got to be peeved. He's got corn. He says he's got, yeah. He's probably peeved that he's in a. That he's peeved he's got to buy Salinger to feel respectful when all he can do is eat Cheetos and jerk to corn, which is it. Before washing it down with Dan Brown chaser. Joe tells the customer to have a nice day, and the customer leaves. The woman comes to the counter saying that it's okay, I'm going to go for it. Joe says, good, you won't regret it. I better not tell the boss. I better not. The boss says, Paul Fox Knight. You know, she was Courtney Love's maternal grandmother. And the woman says, that's why I'm buying it. In his head, Joe says, you have enough cash to cover this. But you want me to know your name. Guinevere. And the woman says, her parents were a-holes with the whole naming thing. But everyone calls her Beck. And you're Joe. And Joe says, Goldberg. But everyone calls me Joe. Beck says that, aren't you going to tell me how to have a nice day? And he says, have a nice day, Beck. And she's like, have one yourself, Joe. And they shake hands. And Beck leaves. And his head, Joe says, you smiled at. You smiled. Laughed at my joke. You told me your name. You asked for mine. And the boss says, you write a number. She wrote her number on there. She was on you hard, and Joe says, no, she was just being nice. The boss says, I Google her right now. You know her full name. Joe says, that's pretty aggressive, Ethan. And Ethan says, what do I tell you always do before closing that crap? In his head, Joe mimics Ethan by saying that if you need me, I'll be in cookbooks, but for work, not for fun, I swear. In his head, Joe said, at the end of the day, people are really disappointed. Really disappointed. But are you, Beck? Are you, Beck? Are you? As Joe watches Beck walk into the subway station. In New York, Joe is walking in his head, he says, yes. People find the one I believe that is trying to stay open. I was in love once. She broke my heart, Beck. She really did a number on me. I should have seen the sign, but we never do when we're in love. Exhibit A: Claudia and Ron. Ron yells at Claudia about how he went out for a couple of days and to get off my back. In his head, Joe says, Claudia, a nurse, a single parent. Claudia tells Ron that he was on the phone. And in his head, Joe says, "You think Claudia knew Ron was awful when she fell in love?" No, she thought he was a prince. Joe says hey to Claudia's son Paco. Paco says, "Sup, Joe?" And in his head, Joe says, "And now hers is the only life she ruined." Hers is not the only life she ruined. She ruined Paco's life by bringing Ron into it. Joe asks Paco, "Is everything cool in there?" And Paco says, "Mom and Ron are just talking." Joe says, "Wow, you are burning through that book, aren't you?" And Paco says, "Read's quick. It's good." Joe says, "Let me know when you'll finish. I'll get you another one." And Joe asks Paco if he's hungry, because he's got a meatball sub. Paco says, "No, my mom will make me something later." And Joe says, That's a shame. This won't keep getting tossed." Paco says, "You sure?" And Joe gives it to Paco, saying, "One for all and one for one and one for all." Paco takes it and Joe goes into his apartment. Instead, he said, "The point, Beck, is love is tricky." Instead, Joe said, "A guy needs to protect himself. I have to be sure you're safe, so I look up Guinevere Beck on the internet, and your name is glorious place to start. Not like Guinevere Beck's, and there you want me to be a kind of well set for public." You want me to know you want to be seen, no, heard, Nona. Of course I oblige. Born and raised in Nantucket Island, a brother Clyde and a sister Anna. Your parents were pretty a-holes about the name. Your folks split when you were 12, and your dad dropped out of the picture when you went to Brown, where majored in lit, cool, and minored in D-bags. And then you went on to NYU to conquer math to MFA, and presumably, and you're so right, barely too busy to live out moments you won't remember 5 years from now. I know this because you post about this life all the goddamn time. Candidly, it's the least appealing thing about you, Beck. You post hours after your encounters, and I was concerned you didn't mention the cute guy in the bookstore. Then I realized your online life isn't real. It's just a collage. You paste this back up, this together. Lovable, cute, bendy little creature. And if anything, the fact that you don't share me with your followers only confirms we really did connect. We really are connected. The next thing your little friend the internet gave me was your address. And then we zoom in. Then we zoom into Beck's address as Joe's watching Beck outside her apartment. In his head, Joe says, "There's this." There it is. It's a big naked windows. It's too nice. It's nice. Too nice. I'm thinking 2 subsidized school housing. And Jesus, it's like you've never seen a horror movie or the news. But you want people to watch, don't you? Why don't we spend the day together tomorrow? Just you and me, Beck. Beck texts a post saying, "Everyone out there chasing their dream, don't give up." And in the meantime, mac and cheese. Outside, Joe sees the post saying, "Cute. Not deep, but cute." And is there more to you? Let's find out. After the cool logo sequence, we don't have an opening. We don't have a title sequence like with my other show. We don't have like a cool like Gossip Girl or Thunderman's one. We just have a cool title card with the show's name on it. That's in Joe's apartment. In his head, Joe says, "Our day starts at the crack ass of dawn. I know your post is scheduled that you teach a 6:30 class called Get Up and Flow. You caress the sway backs of bulimic, dead-eyed real mommies of Soho. offering smiles and lies of encouragement by 10 p.m. And at 10 p.m., you're here at campus to TA or romantic class and play. I want to say Vanya because that's the and play Vanya White to some shirt. Beck says hi to Professor Leahy, but he says call him Paul. And Joe says, Professor Obvious wants to chuck you, which means sleep with her. But I can't say the F word, which is what Joe's actually saying, because this is YouTube. And also I don't want to say that. So every word when he says the F word, I say chuck. Because, yeah, it's better. Yeah, Beck's professor wants to sleep with her. Or chuck her. So, yeah. And you're smart to just let him think one day he might. What's the harm in that? After class, you head to your favorite cafe right for the first time. For the first time in forever. All day. But your life doesn't cooperate your wealthy girlfriends. Just now woken up and have nothing better to do than plan their next pointless days. Instagramable day. Can we take a second? You have questionable taste in friends, Beck. At the Gilded Pig, Beck and her friends are celebrating Anika's birthday. In the books, this is Chana, not Anika, but I guess they want to make Anika a show exclusive character, so yeah. Beck says happy birthday to Anika. Anika says thanks so much. Joe, watching this head, says expensive tastes in life. Beck gives Anika her gift, asking what do you like, and Anika says no, I hate it. Of course I love it. And Peach, played by Emily Fields from Pretty Little Liars. Yeah. Shay Mitchell is in this show, and we all know her from Emily Fields from Pretty Little Liars. So, yeah, Peach says Jason didn't get her something nice. And Anika finally let him do anal. That's what she says. Anal probing. Carmen knows what that like, Peach. Peach gives Anika her gift to open, and Anika says it's a butterfly. It's her spirit animal for the year. You remembered, and Peach says, only because you won't shut up about it. In his head, Joe says, you want so badly to be one of them. Well, they've got nothing to do after this, so yeah, they'll party till 5 and scrape together tomorrow. But you have to work for a living. Peach says, I'm a queen, Beck. How much was it? And Beck says, it was on clearance. And Peach says, they haven't put a McQueen scarf on clearance since he took his own life. In 2010. It'd be too much even if she did deserve it, which she doesn't. Inside, Joe says, not all your friends are dumb. Peach says, why do you always do this? Make big gestures that you can't afford because I'm sorry, you're too nice. And Beck says, it's not a big deal. I had a gift card, and Peach says, how broke are you? Just tell me what's up. Joe says, she actually sounds like she cares. Beck says, look, I appreciate it. And Peach says, why don't you just loan me some cash? I keep telling you it's nothing. In his head, Joe says, also sounds consenting. And Peach says, I do anything for you, and don't forget that shirt. You can't come with us. And Beck says, I gotta do something right. And Peach says, virtuous. Catch you later. And Peach leaves. Joe gets up, and he says, is that your best friend? Is that the best friend you got? And if so, Beck, you really are alone. That night, Beck returns to her apartment as Joe watches from outside because, yeah, that's his deal. Joe says, in his head, Joe says, Your social medias are a liar. They say you're happy-go-lucky dilettante, but underneath it all, you're just a genuine article, stretched and thin. Sure, but as soon as the store closes, you're back at keyboarding, trying to write. Jonathan sees a taxi with a man coming out and saying, going to Beck's window and asking me to let him in. And it said, Joe says, Beck, who the chuck is that? Who the chuck is this? As Joe watches them, Beck says, yells at the man for saying that Beck berates this guy, saying that her best friend walked in on him, getting his penis sucked by some random woman at a party I took you to. The man says, I was wasted. I didn't even finish. And Beck says, that's your apology? I didn't come? And that's the one you're going with. The man says, it's obvious you shouldn't have gone to the bathroom with any girl that wasn't you, but she said she had good coke. And I've been seriously stressed out. And I thought when John and I started our line, it would be picking out flavors and crap. It turned out 16-hour lectures, microbiome by management. That's why no one starts their own artisanal soda company, and why America keeps drinking crap that gives them cancer. Beck says, you actually managed to connect your illicit BJ, to curing cancer. I'm generally impressed. The man says, Beck. And Beck says, seriously, I'm trying to work. I have to keep hooking up or whatever. Is you're capable of. And the man says, I've done some stupid crap, but I'm on it, and I don't want to be the same guy you sleep with. So then he kisses Beck on Beck's neck, and then they start to do the dirty as Joe watches. Joe says, way to go, Beck. Looks like a cat. So Joe decides to look up this guy. Benjamin J. Ashby, the third. Oh, there's three of them. That was funny. That was a funny one. Saying, oh, there's three of them. Greenwich born, boarding school bred. His father is Ben Ashby of Ashby Brokerage. Two failed careers model. Oh boy. And the co-creator of a dating app that connects people through musical tastes called Love Hooks. Like fish hooks. Current CEO of Home Soda Artisanal Beverages, motto, drink better by hand, which makes no sense because, yeah, you already drink better by hand. You already hold it in your hand. See, this dude, Benji, is an idiot. Like, literally, bro. But invokes a homespun quality that lines up with the guy who wears 600 Japanese sneakers. The hair is privilege. The privilege, he tries to hide with retweets of Black Lives Matter. Not to sound judgy, but this guy's everything wrong with America. See, this is why I do my research. Beck, you fall for the wrong men. Bad men. You let them in. You let them hurt you. Too far away to know for sure. But my guess is that if you can't hear anywhere close to making you come, you would have made a Broadway show out of it. But you didn't, because he didn't do. Not doing dirty. Benji sees Beck's book that she bought. Benji says, desperate characters, and Beck says, I just got it. You can borrow it after when I'm done. It's supposed to be her bet. Benji says, John's consultant, we brought in, she's been all over it. About this kind sage the crap out of the office. And the book title has the word desperate in it. You don't want to think that of yourself as a desperate character, Beck, because you're the opposite. babe, you're the smartest girl I know. Honestly, you blow me away. And I'm like, hey. Benji says, yeah, he gotta go. He gotta roll. John was blowing up my phone, and you come by the office to test out my new flavor. We're doing cumin. I know how much you love that, like that Indian food. Beck says, sure, sounds good. And Benji says, it looks good on you. By the way, the extra weight. Yeah, Benji, you're ruining Beck's thing. Benji leaves on the phone with Jono, and Joe hides while seeing Benji leave. In his head, Joe says, you don't finish. Then Joe dreams about doing the dirty with Beck. Once he's gone, he helps the old lady get her luggage out of her house and helps her get a cab. As Joe walks into his apartment, he hears Claudia moaning. I guess that means she didn't run or doing the dirty. And Joe says, wow, don't tell me you're finished already. Paco says, it's almost good. Almost. It's so good sometimes. The dialogue is weird though. Like when they're killing each other and still have all the nice things said and still all nice about it. Joe says, well, it's 19th century. People still had manners. And Paco says, I was hoping we could get another copy. Joe says, it's probably late, Pac. I don't know. In his head, Joe says, something is in the air tonight, Beck. Because everyone but me is getting action. Even the lovebirds made up. Joe says, well, why not? Yeah, after hearing Ron and Claudia, he's like, yeah, why not? Sure. At the bookstore, Paco said, didn't you know Dumas was a black dude? I googled him, or African American now. I googled him. His grandmother was a slave, and his dad was a brigadier general. He killed like half a battalion. You probably knew that since you work at a bookstore. Joe says, I didn't. And Paco says, how'd you get to work there anyway? And Joe says, Mr. Mooney gave me a job when I was a little older than you. He loved books too. He sort of took me in, and Paco said he seemed nice, and Joe says he's a jerk, but he loved books, and he taught me to love them too. Paco says, I never see him around. Is he dead? And Joe says, no, he's just old. Well, now he's dead because the actor passed away, but still, who knows? The actor passed away, but still. I'm sorry, Pac. I had one back for you, but you must have sold it. Pac says, sold it? Sold what? And Joe says, your next read. Come on, I'll show you where we keep the good stuff. Joe takes Paco down to the bookstore basement. Paco says, freaky, and Joe says, it's a cage. It's the cage. It's where we keep early editions and collectibles. Paco says, it's cold, 65 degrees for the books. Paco says, if zombies came, this is where I'm hiding. In flashback, Mr. Mooney says, careful, Joseph. When it comes to the value of a book, it's all in the condition. I'll show you. And in the present, Joe says, it's always 65 degrees humidity, 40% too moist, and the books could mildew. And in the flashback, Mr. Mooney says, too dry, they get brittle. Always keep books upright so the spines don't become rolled or warped, or what we call cooked in the present. Joe says, we never fold or crease the books in the page. We dust the covers with chemical-free dusters. And in flashback, Mr. Mooney says, always towards the spine. In the present, Joe says, under the circumstances, there is any sunlight in this room. In a flashback, Mr. Mooney says, sunlight can ruin a book as fast as a fire. And Joe says, faster. Paco says, that's a lot of stuff to remember. Just takes care of some old books. And Joe says, the most valuable thing in life are usually the most helpless. So as soon as they need people like us to protect them. You know, Pac, Paco says, Don Quico, and John says it's Quixote. It's a guy who believes in chivalry, so he decides to be an old school knight. Paco says, what's chivalry? And Joe says, it's treating people with respect, especially women, like men should. It's good. One of my favorites. Paco said, I probably shouldn't take this home. And Joe said, it's not a first edition. It's an old one. Besides, I trust you. Joe leaves Paco alone in the cave. At his apartment, Paco and Joe return home only to be confronted by Claudia's boyfriend, Ron. Ron says, where have you been, Paco? And Paco says, Joe... And Paco says, we grabbed some milkshakes. And Ron says, you just walked off with strangers? And Paco says, Joe's not a stranger. And Ron says, yes, he is. Inside now. Ron leads Paco inside. And Ron then walks out and talks to Joe. And says to Joe... Yeah, Ron says to Joe, stay away from my girlfriend's kid. Joe says, look, I'm sorry, but he was out here and he could hear everything in there. And Ron says, don't tell me how to parent. This whole nice guy act may work on other people. I'm parole officer, 15 years, and I can see what you really are. And Joe says, well, you're an alcoholic crap bag who beats women, so please enlighten me. And Ron says, you're a freak, so stay away from Paco. And if you don't, I'll grab a steak knife and I'll cut your freak eyes out. Yeah, Ron's basically like Dokes from Dexter, but at least Dokes was nice. Ron's nothing. Ron's basically like if you took Dokes from Dexter and you made him evil. Dokes was a bad person, but at least he was nice at least he was nice to people. Ron is just evil. Ron is just bad. He doesn't care about anyone, and Joe says, there are scary people in this world, Beck, and that's why it's more important to be safe. Ron goes back into Claudia's apartment, and Joe says, that's what I have to do and I'm about to do. At Beck's apartment, Joe walks in. In his head, Joe says, fun fact, did you know that the law requires gas leaks to be investigated? I've been learning a lot since I met you. I was careful to call the gas company on the day you had a full schedule. I wouldn't want to scare you. Joe says, hey, is Beck here? And the gaslight guy says, because we never get the guy's name, I'm just going to call him Gaslight Guy, because we never get his full name. Says, no, Super let me in. Someone reported a gas leak. And Joe says, right. She mentioned that. Is everything okay? Gaslight Guy says, yeah, all clear. Just tell your girlfriend there's no leak. I'm done so. Joe says, okay, thanks. Well, I can look up. In his head, Joe says, I just need to know who you are. Besides that broke poacher student in a subsidized apartment you can never afford. Where is it, Beck? When we live together, our apartment won't be a pigsty. I'll clean for us. You won't have to eat frozen crap, and I'll cook for you every day. I promise. I'll even do your laundry and take your favorite book. I'll make our bed every morning. I know, there it is, your computer. No matter how hard you fight me, I'll always make sure you password protect your devices. No matter how... At the MFA, Professor Paul, or Professor Leahy says, one day you won't need love anymore. One day you won't walk through this world as it was your job to hold up the sun's sky, the hard part of the night. And then he says, yeah, Beck, your poem is good. It's quite good. But Beck, where's the rest you owe me? 20 more pages. Beck says, I've been honestly working every day and grading papers, Professor Leahy. And if the schedule is too rigorous, and Professor Leahy says, if the schedule is too rigorous, drop back to part-time. Beck says, but then I won't qualify to TA. I need the cat, the housing. I'd lose my place. Professor Leahy says, you'll figure it out. You're smart, or you wouldn't be here. Beck says, please, Professor Leahy. And he said, call me Paul. Which, again, you wouldn't be allowed to do. You wouldn't be able to call your professor by his first name. Beck says, Paul, I'll get you the pages by the end of the week. I can't go back to part-time. Paul says, okay, I'm rooting for you. Just need you to keep up happy to discuss further after class. Some evenings, if we're going to seriously discuss poetry, it should be over a drink. There's a little gastropub I love. Beck says, I'd love that. Paul, how would your wife feel about you? And Paul said, about me helping a aspiring writer. She used my generosity. So Thursday night then. And Beck says, Thursday night it is. Paul says, don't worry about next few days. Just go home and get caught up. Beck's text leaves and texts Benji needing to see him. Benji texts Beck saying, I will if I can, babe. Working late, plus I can still smell you on my fingers. Gross. Gross, Benji. That is gross. Joe says, I learned 2 definitive things by scouring your computer. First, in his head, Joe says, I learned 2 definitive things by scouring your computer. First, there are no recent pictures of your dad, because he's dead. He OD'd and you were the one who found him. You started a few poems about the day he died, but you never finished it. I'm so sorry, Beck. None of this matters because my second greatest discovery. 11:06, an hour after our encounter at the bookstore, amidst a group text of Mary vaginal detoxing, you wrote about me. You told your friend. Thank you for letting me know I wasn't crazy after all. Then Joe says, no, after hearing Beck return. So Joe hides in her shower. Joe hides in her shower. I'm not making this up. He hides in Beck's shower. That is the weirdest thing I have ever heard. A dude who's stalking the girl hides in her shower. Beck returns to the apartment saying, yes, I remember what you said when you spent the money last. Yes, I'm grateful I'm working constantly. There's no place cheaper to live. And she tells the person about what he did. I did. He basically offered to sleep with me. No, I can't report him. That's not how it works. And Joe's head saying, I'm not worried. I've been through enough romantic comedies to know guys like me are always getting in jams like this. Beckton says, not the school, the world. It's not like how the world works. Beckton turns on the shower, causing Joe to get wet. And Joe's probably thinking to himself, yep, this is my life. Beck says, I know how much you helped me. It's just hard here, Mom, okay? I'll figure it out. I love you, too. Bye, Mom. Then Beck starts to break down crying. In his head, Joe says, it's okay, Beck. Beck's friends call her to come out with them, but Beck says she had the worst day. Lynn asks what happened, and Peach says, oh, Beckalicious. Whatever it is, nothing we can't fix. And Lynn says, yeah, us in a copious amounts of alcohol. Peach says, OMG, there's a sale. And Beck says, you guys love me. And Peach says, of course. Lynn says, why would you even say that? And Beck says, okay, then meet me in Greenpoint. And Peach says, look, why don't you just come here, okay? And Lynn says, actually, it's actually fun where we are, I promise. And Peach says, yeah, Beck. Beck says, no. There's something I need to do for myself. I'll text you guys on my way. Peach says, see you soon, bye, and they end the call. Peach says, Chuck. What? Hey, stop doing that. That never happened. This never happens to Crave. And Joe says, and she turns off the shower. Inside, Joe says, I guess we're going to Greenpoint, Beck. In Greenpoint, inside, Joe says, I never go to Greenpoint. But things you do for love. Right, Beck? Beck says, hi, okay, we're going to need a few more drinks. Hold on 1 second. He says, what is she thinking? Open mics are for models, / singers, songwriters, / vegans. These people don't want to hear wannabe read. Okay, I guess that's... Don't want to hear some wannabe read a poem about bleak lists of life or whatever. Joe says, wow, your friends are disloyal, and that Peach is the worst. Beck says, another round of pickleback. Peach says, Beckett, do we really think now is the night? Beck says, positive. All of my life literally has been about surviving. I need to remind myself why I came here in the first place. Anika and Lynn say, yeah, you go. So Peach says, who do you keep texting? And Peach says, and Beck says, I invited Benji. And Peach says, Beck. And Beck says, he likes poetry. And Anika says, for sure. And Peach says, he texted you he was coming. And Beck says, he texted a row of smile emojis like 45 minutes ago. And Peach says, some guys are just a-holes. And you have to realize that. Beck says, I get it, Peach. And Peach says, you are the one who told me to keep reminding you he's a B-tard. He's a bastard. The announcer says Beck is up, and Beck says to vulnerability and crap. To vulnerability and crap. Beck says, hi everyone, I'm Beck. And not to sound like you know it, whatever, I'm just a poet. And Lynn says, yeah, you are. And Beck says, one day you won't need love anymore. Beck starts to read her poem, saying, one day you won't need love anymore. One day you won't walk through the world as though it was your job to hold everything up. The sun, the sky, the hard part of the night, the secret time when you wake up and the sound of beating rise to answer the door, but he's not there because the sound is coming from inside you. You cannot answer it no matter how far in you go. Then Beck stops midway through and looks around. Then she begins again saying, you love the way that you loved him, the way the fragile kids loved gorgeous bullies. You wrote a song about him. I mean, you wrote poems about him. You still write poems but you're writing about now. A man says, where are you, so sad? You're just so sad. Just something happier for a change might be nice. I think everyone agrees. Get the singer back. They're literally telling Beck, get off the stage. Beck says, sorry, I just lost my place. It takes a second to find where I'll take a second to find where I am. Instead, Joe says, I can't sing this. I'm sorry. Joe leaves. He says it's all in his head. He says it's obvious what you are. What you're blind with love. You love writing, the city, your friends, most of all, men like Benji. What all of those have in common is that they never will love you back. They never love you back. Well, you give everyone is crazy line. Like we're along like Beck. The last two romantics walk. Joe walks down the train station and is in his head say, I was considering with my new friend, Mr. Bat Homeless Guy, and Mr. Bat Crap Homeless Guy, when the second luckiest thing this week happened. You drunkenly walked down the train. You drunkenly walked down the stairs of the train station. It was like I was dreaming. I'm not, Beck. You're too drunk. Could I be dreaming? I'm not. Beck, you're too drunk to be alone. What if some sick would follow you down here? You're too wasted to be staying so close. The tracks back. And stop texting that arrogant club soda no-show. You want Benji. You need Benji. You hold that phone like it is Benji, because it's your only way to stay connected. Forget Benji. And two, with that phone. Then Beck's phone slips out of her hand, causing her to land on the train track. Joe runs over saying, hey, you okay? And are you all right? Can you stand up? Just still have that stuff down there can electrocute you. All right, so let's just get your hand. The train tracks are coming up. Joe says, your hand now. Beck picks up her phone. Joe takes her hand, and then they look at each other before she vomits on Joe. Outside, Joe sees the vomit, and Beck says, OMG, OMG, I'm so sorry. Joe says, no, it's fine. I hated this jacket. Beck says, I'm really sorry, and Joe says, it's okay. Beck says, you mind? And Joe says, you know what? Let's get you into the cab, all right? Beck says, I'm always like this. And Joe says, I figured you had some sort of night. And Beck says, hey, I don't want to sound like a stalker, but I think I know you. Joe says, oh, right, of course. Oh, right, of course. I remember. Beck says, sorry, I have a pretty bland face. And Joe says, no, you don't. A desperate characters, I remember. And Beck says, yeah. And Joe opens the cab and saying, where are you headed? Beck says, the village. And we're close? Ride with me. At least it's I can do. And Joe says, okay. And as they ride in the cab, Beck says, hey, did you move here to be something like I did, but it's not working out? I'm just running around 18 hours a day with, oh God, what? Never mind, sorry. Joe says, please. I feel the same way. Sometimes guys I know, sometimes the guy I know, he owns a bookstore. He once told me that all books add up to one essential truth, which is if your IQ is above a certain number, life is pretty unbearable. And the number is not even that high. Beck laughs, saying, I think I'd be happier if I were stupider. Joe laughs, saying, but then the world wouldn't know your poetry. And Beck says, how'd you know I write poetry? Because he stalked you. But Joe says, does Mint everyday writers in New York? Doesn't every writer in New York? I mean, I read a lot of poetry. Beck says, what do you like? And Joe says, Strand, Sexton, Muriel. Beck says, you're just on my nightstand. And Joe says, you do read then to get to sleep every night. You definitely belong here. Beck says, what's your last name again? And he says, Goldberg. And Beck says, where do you come from, Joe Goldberg? Joe says, I grew up here. I left for a little while I was chasing a girl. But Beck says you came back, and Joe says, yeah, I missed it, and I'm not a good chaser. Beck says, me neither. The taxi arrives, and Beck stops. Beck says, this is me, and Joe says, it's not bad. Beck says, thank you for sobering me up and saving my life. Joe says, I didn't save your life. Beck says, yeah, you did. And they're about to kiss when a knock on the door comes. In his head, Joe says, of course, Benji. Beck says hi to Benji and introduces Benji to Joe, saying he literally saved my life. I fell on the tracks and it was crazy. Ben says, babe, I told you, people are basically good. It's a great job. Saying, good job, bro. And then Zoe says, bro, you waste of hair. Joe says, okay, Beck, it's free in here. Joe says, wait, maybe I can get your info. Beck says, yeah. Oh, my phone. I must have dropped it in the subway. Oh, okay, just maybe you can give me your number when you get a replacement. Beck says, I'm basically enslaved to your email. In his head, Joe says, I get it. Smart. I'm practically a stranger. I can't be too careful. Joe says, okay. Beck says her email is beckinreallife@gmail.com, which is probably not a real email, but still. Joe says, type that in. Joe types that in, all right. And all right. Beck says, thank you. And as she leaves the cab, in his head, Joe says, there's one thing what I learned this week. You're really special. You're really talented. You're passionate. You're smart. Except in the ways you're not, like not locking your phone. And yeah, it's revealed that Joe stole Beck's broken phone from her. And also, he also says that, yeah, you're not smart except the ways you're for not locking your phone and for falling for men like Benji. You know better, but you can't stop. Because while everyone needs someone, what you really need is someone to save you. I can help, Beck. Let me help you. Joe returns to the apartment, and Parker says, Joe. And Joe says, Park, hey, what's up? What's going on? And what are you doing out here? And Parker says, it's Ron. He came on drunk. And then he started yelling and saying I thought I was smart, reading my book, and I looked at him like he was dumb. Joe says, what's happened? Did he hurt you? And Parker says, no, he didn't touch me. But he, actually I wrote in this part, but he did destroy your book. Parker didn't actually say that. I just wanted to write that in because I didn't know how to write that into the scene where Joe gives Paco, or Paco gives Joe his destroyed book that Ron destroyed. Didn't know how to write that in, so I decided to write in my own phrase for Paco to say. I tried to stop him, but I'm so sorry. Joe says, Paco, it's okay. It's okay. Come with me. We can fix it together. In the bookstore basement, Joe says, the first step into fixing something is to know what matter how destroyed it can really be saved. Books are no exception. Got it? Paco says, got it. And Joe says, what we have here is a line press. Because basically it's a huge clamp. Polyvinyl acetate glue means no acid to burn the pages. Got your needle thread, and finally, right out of the Bugs Bunny, trusty mallet. You see this? We don't need this. Meanwhile, Benji tells Jono how Jeff Presenzi would like to try their homemade. Would text them saying that he would like to try their homemade soda. John says, hey, I'm back, bro. And Johnny says, no crap. To back off while I think. Jeff's so nice to hear from you, bud. Yeah, our sodas are legit. I'd love to meet up. Have you send you the goods. Let's set something up. Back at the bookstore, Joe says, scrape carefully along with the spine, of course. You got to watch your finger. Meanwhile, Benji gets a text from Jeff saying, sounds great. I can call you between messaging to see if we'll be available. John says, this takes us to the next level. What do you think we'll meet him? And Benji says, no offense, my guy, but I'm the one. We discussed this. It's if the product has one clear face at the beginning, it's Benji. It's just more Benji. At the bookstore basement, Joe says, okay, the spine is stone, so you can take this pull off as right as it can. Yeah, that's it. Benji calls for Jeff as Joe says the glue is set. We've applied the binder, and now that we've got precise, you use the actual force needed. Benji meets up with Jeff, who turns out is actually Joe. So yeah, Joe is masquerading as Jeff to lure Benji. Jeff says, it's really nice to meet you too. Have you been here? It's not a quality people know exactly. It's incredible after hours. Very exclusive. Benji says, I've been here a couple of times. And Joe said, so yeah, well good. So you'll feel right at home. Joe then takes Benji to the basement. To the bookstore basement. Benji says, hey man, I'm thinking maybe. But then Joe knocks Benji out by hitting him with the mallet, knocking him out cold. In his head, then at the bookstore in his head, Joe says, at 2 p.m. when the door chimes, I'm ready to go. You told your girlfriend you'd come by. And how did I know this? Because I have her phone. Beck says, hey, remember me from almost dying on the train track? Joe says, it rings a bell. Hang on. And Beck says, I wanted to say thank you. Joe says, no, you already did that. And she says, well, thanks again. I'm sorry for running off the other night. Joe says, you had a guest. And Beck says, hardly so. I got you a present. Joe says, no, please, you didn't have to get me anything. And Beck says, shut up and look at it. And Joe reads it as engine number 9 on the New York Transit line. If a girl falls on the track, pick her up. And in his head, Joe says, we already have in-jokes. And Beck says, so anyway, that I better go. Joe says, maybe if you're not too busy, we could have a drink sometime. Beck says, sure. I still can't find my phone. And Joe says, I know email. And Beck says, that's right. See you, Joe. And she says, see you soon, Beck. Beck leaves and Ethan says, well played. And instead Joe says, I'm not always human. I make mistakes. And you'll see. And Joe tells Ethan they have to check on shipment downstairs. Can you watch the register? Ethan says, yeah. And Joe goes to the basement and it says, saying, maybe I'm just a fool in love, but I know I'm right ahead of you. I know I'm right about you. I'm going to help you get the life you deserve back. Joe sees Benji wake up in the cave. Benji says, please, whatever you think I did, you're got the wrong guy. And Joe says, no, I don't. And he smiles to end the episode. So, yeah. That was the first episode of You. Really good to these characters. And even though it's a little different than the books, like Lynn is just, like, Anika is basically just replacement Shauna. And Peach is more, and in the book, Peach is not actually there. She's more of a mysterious character who you meet later on. But in the first episode, you actually see her. It's really interesting. But yeah. That was the video, and I'll see you next time for You, Season 1, Episode 2, The Last Nice Guy in New York. I don't know what to say here because on my gospel videos, I have a cool thing that has a cool texting emotion that totally is super cool in the reminiscent of Gossip Girl. But with You, they got nothing. So... yeah. So, yeah. Hello, You. This was You. And You. Don't know what to say. I'll have to come up with one because You doesn't have a cool ending ring to it like Gossip Girl does. But you know you love me. XOXO. You. They don't have a cool one. But see you next time. For You, Season 1, Episode 2. The last guy in New York. The last nice guy in New York. See you next time.